Hi there, guys. This is Allison. I'm going live on the Yosemite Facelift Instagram account. We were having a conversation last week about these virtual climbing events and realized that a lot of people may feel that they don't even really know what to expect. So we thought we would do a short little segment on what to expect. Hi, Heidi. Thanks for joining.
Hi, Allison. Lovely to be here.
Heidi, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself and also your event?
Yeah, thanks. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Heidi McDowell. I work over at the American Alpine Club as their events director. And I am the lucky gal who gets to run the Craggin Classic series. It is a nationally touring climbing festival that typically happens in the fall. We hit 7 iconic dream-worthy climbing destinations ranging from Smith Rock to Rumney, New Hampshire, and just really celebrate getting together and the climbing community at large. Uh, but
Yeah, we're all gonna
fortunately,
we're all going to miss events like the Craggin Classics this year. So I know you had to make we both had to make a difficult decision determining to pivot to a virtual event this year.
Mhm.
So I'm Allyson Gonzalez. I'm the managing director for the Yosemite Climbing Association. The YCA hosts Yosemite Facelift, which is a large annual cleanup event in Yosemite in September. We get about 2,000 people every year, and this year is the 17th annual event. Like the American Alpine Club, we decided several months ago that we were going to be pivoting to Facelift Act Local this year. So rather than hosting an event in Yosemite, we're calling on our volunteers to basically engage in community service projects around their home parks, their home crags. And then in order to incentivize and for us to present that feeling of the spirit of Yosemite and community that we love, we'll be offering some online programming and giveaways as well. So there's a few things we want to cover during this segment. The first thing was we wanted to address how the current public health crisis has impacted the YCA and the AAC. Then we want to discuss how we envision our events going this year. I had a friend recently say, I saw your video about facelift and I still have no idea what you guys are trying to do. So I'm hoping that this may address that, nothing like trying to get the word out to explain some of the gaps that people might have. And then finally, we wanted to talk a bit about why we think this is valuable. Like, why are we even doing the virtual events? It's not the same as being in person, and we recognize that. I don't think trying to replace being in person, but we do think that there are some benefits that are coming out of these events that will be available for the community afterward. So we want to touch on that a bit. And then we'll close. So I think this discussion should take 10 to 15 minutes at most, and we're really happy that you're here. So first, Heidi, I want to ask you, how has the AAC, how has Craggin Classics been impacted by the recent public health crisis?
yeah, well, the AAC, as with most organization, has faced some really tough times the last few months, and we've had to tighten our belts. But we've also gotten to see the community come together in a really amazing way. We've seen our members, our volunteers, and even our staff step up to really support each other. We also, in just general club news, had our new CEO start just a couple of weeks ago. Mitsui Iwasaki came on board. What a time to step into that role, but I think he's up to the challenge. On the events front, the health crisis has unfortunately meant that we've had to cancel a lot of our events. Others, luckily, we've been able to pivot to face those changing times, and the Craggin Classic is a perfect example of that.
Awesome. Yeah, that is an interesting time to start a new role like CEO of the AAC, but congratulations to him and to you guys. I'm sure he'll be great. So for the YCA, we actually in the last couple years have taken on a second large project. So I always think of Yosemite Facelift as our first large project as an organization. And our second large project has been trying to open a museum gallery in Mariposa, California, outside Yosemite National Park. So Ken Yeager, who is the founder and president of the Yosemite Climbing Association, has been collecting historic climbing artifacts and photographs for decades. And one of so we've got like Bridwell's shirt from the famous photo in Elk Meadow. And I mean, there's some really, really cool things there. So we wanted to open the doors to our gallery museum in May, and obviously we weren't able to do that. I don't even think in California museums can open legally yet because we're not at that stage of reopening. So we launched a Kickstarter in June, and we're successful in raising funds to help us keep our doors open and our lights on, doors halfway open, while we are putting together our permanent exhibits and trying to put our artifacts and our photos on a website now to make that available to the public. So before we can open, we're hoping that we can, serve our mission of making climbing history available to the public by establishing that website. And then on the facelift front, we, as you all know, at this point, decided it wasn't safe to have the event in Yosemite. So we want to develop a virtual program, but also call on our volunteers to take the event local. And there have been some really great things that have come out of that, actually, relationships with other organizations that we've been meaning to reach out to, but we haven't really had the bandwidth because we've been working so hard on the physical event. So we've also been developing our online infrastructure. We have a new website, YosemiteFacelift.com, which we've been meaning to put together for years. Before, we only had one website for the whole organization, and the event really is its own project. So it deserved its own website, and we're able to share information there more easily. So Heidi, also, having conversations with other event coordinators like you, we're all kind of in this together, trying to figure out how to serve our community in the best way possible, given these challenges. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about how things have changed recently?
Just that, yeah, it's a weird time to be an event coordinator. But, even though the world may be weird, climbing is still climbing. And so I'm stoked that we're able to find ways to bring climbing to life digitally.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it takes a big commitment, like you and I have, and so many other event coordinators. So give your local climbing org event coordinator a virtual hug when you can. The second thing I wanted to touch on here is, what are we expecting for our events? So I will ask Heidi, I'll ask you to kind of go into what you envision for the virtual Craggin Classics first, and then ask you any follow-up questions that I have that might help you develop that.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'm sure to many of you out there that the idea of a virtual climbing festival sounds just outright preposterous. I admittedly had a hard time wrapping my head around what it would look like. After all, the core of the climbing or of the Craggin Classic is community, it's gathering. But luckily, technology is rad. It's allowing us to bring so much of the Craggin Classic that you know and love to life digitally. We're going to be able to offer clinics with pro athletes that will kind of be broken down into bite-sized curriculum, and in an interactive format, so that you're not sitting in front of your computer for hours on end. We'll have games that you can play by submitting photos or videos so that you can compete against your fellow Craggin Classic goers. And we'll have an online auction full of gear from all our sponsors. The tech has also allowed us to add in some fun new additions. We're going to have some workshops on topics that we haven't been able to cover before, things that are really important to climbing, but haven't had space in the physical events. Topics like allyship in the outdoors and nutrition. What do you eat? It matters when you're a climber. We'll also be able to record the content. So how when you leave a clinic or something and you walk away and you're like, man, that thing that I learned was cool. What was it? Now you're going to have the recorded content that you can watch back again and be like, oh yeah, that was it. That was that sweet knot. So yeah, you know, it's a mix. We won't be able to gather in person, but we're going to be able to make some really cool stuff happen. And I know that the same is true of the facelift.
I have a couple follow-up questions for you. In order to participate, what will people need to do? Are they going to need to download an app, or is this going to be on, like, what interface are they going to be using?
Yeah, great question. It's going to be pretty easy. People will just go to cragginclassic.com and we'll have everything hosted right there on the website. There will be like a quick registration, you know, the usual name, email, that kind of stuff. And then you'll basically be in the event.
In the environment.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then another question was, this is a hard one and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but everything is virtual now. Like, my work meetings are virtual, and it's hard to like maintain the motivation and be stoked about the virtualness. So what are some words of excitement that we could share with people to make them think about this? Like, you get out of things like what you put in. Like, you were talking about games where they're going to be participating in advance by giving photos, etc. I, at this point, like, full disclosure, could easily see myself have a bad day and be like, you know what, I just don't want to actually like put this energy in right now, you know? I think this new realm and world is making us really have to like sometimes just show up, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I know that Zoom burnout is real. I'm suffering. But you know, the thing that makes our two events, I think, special and timely is that they're going to provide community at a time when we need it most. And ironically, it's kind of hardest to come by. So you'll be able to log into our two events and like have that sense of community and interaction in a way that's not really possible in the world right now. And I know it's an important, both of our events are important fundraisers for our two organizations. So, you know, by showing up, by participating, by spending a couple of bucks, you can have that warm and fuzzy feeling of supporting the YCA and the AAC. And
yeah,
you feel
absolutely.
good about what you're doing. Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that you and I were talking about previously was the fact that we really are putting in so much energy into this to create an alternative to our physical events. And without that, we wouldn't really have any alternative. So there is an opportunity here to network with people that you're going to meet in the Craggin Classics environment, the virtual environment. And that's an opportunity that wouldn't be available otherwise. So it's totally worth it to take advantage of this different format. As far as, did you have anything to add?
No, that covered it. Yeah.
As far as Facelift goes, I see our event, Facelift Act Local, having three main components. So there's a volunteer component, there's a giveaways component, and there's a programming component. The volunteer component is basically a call to action of our normal supporters and volunteers and people outside of our usual network to pick a place around their home where they've seen trash and to pick a day during the event period, which is September 22nd through the 27th. And of course, you can clean up outside of September 22nd through the 27th, but our programming will be available during that time. So pick a place, pick a day, pick 2 days, go out with someone in your household or a trusted friend and get outside, go out, pick up some trash. I think in order to participate in this volunteer component, you probably want rubber gloves. You can get a trash grabber or a litter stick in advance. Reach out to us if you have if you think that you'd like us to send you one. If we can, we will. And then there will be online programming as an incentive for our volunteers. So we're developing that content now by reaching out to professionals in the industry, athletes, and also other organizations. The idea is for us to pre-record content and then have live segments interspersed. We're thinking about having about an hour of evening programming on YouTube every evening. So about 3 20-minute long segments with some live interludes. So as of now, Ken, Timmy, and I are planning to MC the event live, and the pre-recorded content we would be streaming live. So we're excited about that. And also, it's kind of good timing, all things considered, because we've really improved our technology in the last couple years. So last year was the first year we live streamed the actual physical event, so it's worked out well because we at this point have pretty sophisticated production, and I think the quality of our programming is going to be worthwhile. And Heidi, as you said, we'll be able to record it, and it will be available after the event as well on our YouTube channel. And then that third component are the giveaways. So in order to participate in the giveaways, and actually to participate in the event, you need to take the pledge. And the pledge is available on YosemiteFacelift.com/toolkit. You can also just go to YosemiteFacelift.com, and there's a link to the toolkit on that homepage. The pledge allows us to know how many people are planning to volunteer so that we have an idea for a target number of giveaways. It also gives us an idea of the number of people, just out of curiosity's sake, who are volunteering. There's some disclaimers in the pledge, and also the official vehicle of Facelift, Act Local, Subaru, wants some information. They've been a tremendous partner, so has the North Face. Just have to give a little plug to our sponsors. Nobody really knows what to expect in this environment, and so I really have to give props to our financial sponsors who are still willing to show up and sponsor the event to further our community and this type of engagement. I think I covered everything I wanted. Did you want to add anything on that point?
No, just to echo your shout out to all of the corporate partners and sponsors who are making these events possible. For us, the Craggin Classic is powered by Camp, supported by a handful of other awesome brands like Adidas, Rock and Ice, Tin Cup Whiskey, Black Diamond, and Mystery Ranch. This wouldn't be possible without them, and they're hurting too, but they recognize the value in supporting our two organizations, and so I'm very thankful to them and their support.
Yeah, thanks to the sponsors for sure. So third point and last point, before we wrap this up, why are we doing this? Why do we think these virtual events are going to add value?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question, because it basically boils down to, why should we sit in front of our screens and engage in a clinic or in these events, and for me, at the end of the day, the answer comes down to a couple of things. It's community, finding it where we can, how we can. It's supporting awesome organizations doing awesome work. The YCA and AAC are two organizations that I truly believe in. I know I'm a staffer, but I wouldn't be working there if I didn't truly believe it. And it's a chance to learn something new through the Craggin Classic. We're gonna have a whole host of educational clinics covering topics from entry-level topics to how do you transition from gym climbing to climbing outside, all the way up to advanced rescue and anchor building. So there'll be something for everybody, I think, at each of our events. Ways to engage, ways to give back, ways to score some rad gear, a little bit of everything.
I think also because we don't necessarily have the same opportunities for these types of clinics. This is a good way to keep your skills fresh, where you might not be able to get into a group class that you normally would have been able to before. So.
And to do it with some really cool people. All our clinics are going to be taught by professional athletes, so I won't give any names away quite yet, but get ready for a stellar lineup.
Yeah, along the same lines, our program for evening programs probably will be available the first week of September. We're waiting for people to actually send their content, so that it will be our next big exciting release. I think on the Facelift side, I wanted to come back to the idea of motivation and the fact that, as COVID-19 drags on, it's harder and harder to have the same level of motivation and activation and engagement with the day-to-day. And so my hope is with Facelift Act Local, this will give people a reason to plan a time to get outside and do something that feels good, September 22nd through the 27th, we're all outside a bit these days, and we're seeing places that could use a cleanup. you know, we'll all feel really good after we get outside and volunteer during that period. So I'm hoping this is a nudge for people to follow through on a volunteer event that will make them feel better in a time where we all kind of need that. One
Yeah.
final thought about this as well was that, you know, the winter is coming and it's going to, yeah, I know, it's going to be darker earlier, and my hope is that the content that organizations like the YCA and the AAC are developing and going to make available publicly online after our events can be some resources for people during a time of year when things may be more challenging because we don't have as much time to get outside.
Mm-hmm.
I see a comment here, a lot of masks and gloves on the trails, I've noticed. Yes, new
Good.
trash. I've seen people wearing masks are good. People forgetting their masks on the trails, not so good. Yeah, I've been seeing masks like in the water, in river, you know, like it would be good to clean them up for sure. This is where I think we want to be safe as well. So obviously if you're not comfortable, you know, picking up a mask without a trash grabber, you want to think ahead and think about, you know, how to keep yourself safe and do this in a way where you're going to feel like you're taking care of yourself. So that's all I had on our third point about adding value and why we're doing this. Do you want to add anything else? And then I'll close up by reminding everyone how they can actually participate.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, great. So again, if you want to participate in Facelift Act Local, go to yosemite-facelift.com, go to the toolkit and take the pledge. It's available on links on our toolkit tab on our webpage, and pick your place and pick a day to clean up during September 22nd through the 27th.
Love it. I definitely recommend participating in the Facelift. And if you want to get engaged in the Craggin Classic, step one, mark your calendars for October 19th to the 25th. That's the event. Step two, mark your calendars for September 15th. That's when registration will open. Step three is to head over to, we're on Instagram now, you guys, at Craggin Classic, to stay up to date with the most up-to-date event information. Step four, this is an optional one, but I highly recommend it. Put a watch party together for both of these events. Like, gather your Quarren pod. I see the comment here about beer helmets, okay? Gather your Quarren pod, slap on your beer helmets, and watch some of the fun stuff that we've got in store for you guys. And then an option on the Craggin Classic front is actually to buy a Craggin at Home kit. It'll show up at your doorstep. It'll have all the gear you need for your very own Craggin Classic, everything from sponsor swag to glow sticks for those dance parties, because yes, we do have some DJs lined up to bring the funk right into your living rooms.
I've participated in a virtual dance party. It was super fun. You get added points if you take a video of yourself at your virtual dance party and then you post that on social media afterward. People will have no idea what you're doing, but it's, you know, these are the times we're in. So again, yeah. September 15th registration for Craggin Classics. Awesome.
Yeah.
Heidi, thank you so much. I think we want to close there unless you have anything else to add.
No,
we're all good.
Thanks for having me, Allyson. And again, can't recommend the Yosemite Facelift enough. Go give back, y'all. Act local. Pick up some trash.
Thanks, Heidi. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody, for attending. Bye.